Hi, Michael. My name's Rob Sold. I'm an attorney with Bugbee and Conkle. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. As you may know, we represent your employer, Scarlet and Gray, and Maize and Blue.
Setting the Scene, Bugbee and Conkle's 13th Annual Workers' Compensation Seminar. For several weeks, Joe Wolverine, a new temporary tow motor operator from Maize and Blue Staffing, a self-insured employer, has been concerned about the safety at Scarlet and Gray Warehouse. In fact, he complained to Maize and Blue Staffing and also wrote a letter to the OSHA area office making the same complaints. As a result of that letter, OSHA conducted a surprise inspection at Scarlet and Gray Warehouse. Since Joe Wolverine has been on his assignment at Scarlet and Gray Warehouse, he has not been a big fan of the company. In fact, he took great pleasure in testifying against the company at a hearing for a former employee, Brutus Buckeye, just last week. Joe Wolverine's appearance on behalf of Brutus surprised the HR manager at Scarlet and Gray, who then conveyed this information to Maize and Blue Staffing. Maize and Blue was not happy to hear this information. On a slow-moving day at Scarlet and Gray Warehouse, a state fund employer, after everyone has recently returned from a lunch break, a commotion breaks out in the warehouse, and management and medical personnel are called to the floor. Upon arrival, it is discovered that Joe Wolverine is on the ground riding in pain in between two unattended tow motors. His leg is bleeding and he is crying profusely as other workers stare helplessly or gather around and try to comfort him. Off to the side, some workers are huddled around Jim Beam, an operator of one of the unattended tow motors, who appears dazed and disheveled. Joe Wolverine is taken to the emergency room for evaluation, treatment, and a drug test. Jim Beam and other witnesses are called into the supervisor's office to report the incident. Jim Beam reports that his and Joe Wolverine's tow motors collided during the course of their work when Joe Wolverine abruptly swung his tow motor toward Jim Beam, possibly to avoid a pedestrian. Over his protest, he is sent to the health center for an evaluation and sent out for a drug test as well. Most witnesses report hearing the collision and Joe Wolverine scream before seeing Joe Wolverine fall to the ground, and that shortly after that, Jim Beam staggered off of his tow motor and away from the scene looking dazed. At least two witnesses report seeing the operators laughing and swinging toward each other while racing their tow motors just prior to the collision. Joe Wolverine is diagnosed with a crushing injury left foot at the health center. The drug test results show he has high levels of opioids and medical marijuana in his system. Jim Beam receives no medical diagnosis from the health center, and his drug test reveals prescription opioids in his system. Due to the drug test results and the ensuing collision, Scarlet and Gray terminates Jim Beam under the company's zero tolerance policy. Scarlet and Gray also informs Maize and Blue that Joe Wolverine's services will no longer be needed. In turn, Maize and Blue terminates Joe Wolverine, but provides no reason for his termination other than he is an at-will employee. Joe Wolverine files a BWC claim against Maize and Blue Staffing for allowance of crush injury left foot, substantial aggravation of pre-existing left ankle arthritis, and substantial aggravation of pre-existing post-traumatic stress disorder. He also requests temporary total compensation. 1 week after receiving his notice of termination, Jim Beam goes to his primary care physician and is diagnosed with concussion and post-concussion syndrome. He subsequently files a BWC claim against Scarlet and Gray Warehouse for allowance of concussion and post-concussion syndrome, and also requests temporary total compensation. 8 months after the incident, Joe Wolverine files a product liability suit against the manufacturer of the forklift, alleging the forklift was unreasonably dangerous because it was designed and manufactured without a barrier guard to keep the operator's feet and legs inside the operator's compartment. Maize and Blue Staffing joins the third-party suit, asserting its subrogation interest. After hearing about Joe Wolverine's lawsuit, Jim Beam also files a products liability suit against the forklift manufacturer. Scarlet and Gray contemplates whether it should protect its subrogation rights as Maize and Blue has.
temporary company in workers' compensation matters. And I understand that you've had an incident out there. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
Do you have a little bit of time to talk to me today?
Absolutely.
Great. I guess the first question is, what's your job out at Scarlet and Gray?
I'm the warehouse manager, or supervisor.
And what's that mean?
I oversee all the operations for the shift.
Okay. And what does Scarlet and Gray do?
We're a distributor of food and beer to the big 10 schools.
Well, that sounds like a great job.
Yeah, it is.
Do you get football tickets doing this job?
I wish that was the case, but unfortunately, no.
Well, I guess it's not that great a job then, is it?
Right.
All right.
No comment.
No comment. That's a good answer. Well, as I understand it, there was an accident occurred out there, a significant incident in February, and you did an investigation. Is that correct?
That's true.
Did you actually witness the accident?
I did not, but I did investigate it.
How'd you find out about it?
I was radioed about it when the incident happened, and I went to the incident as soon as possible after that.
Okay. Did you happen to have any contact with either Joe Wolverine or Jim Bean before the accident?
Yeah, every morning we have a safety orientation, and that I go over with the crew. So I see them every morning.
What do you do at these meetings?
We talk about recent incidents. We refresh them on safety procedures. We tell them the latest information on where they can find it in the handbook if they need to. So we try to cover all of our bases.
Did you actually speak personally to both Joe and Jim the morning of the accident?
Yeah, I did. I talked to them as a group and actually as an individual on a personal level also.
Was it anything in particular or just small talk?
In the group setting, it was just about the safety orientation, but when I talked to them individually, it was more personal.
Okay.
Small talk.
Is Scarlet and Gray a self-insured employer?
We pay the bureau, so I assume that we're...
Yeah, you pay premiums?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd be a state-funded employer.
Okay.
That's consistent with what I understood also.
Okay.
Now, when this accident occurred, did you do an investigation?
Yes, I did.
What's the company's policy with regard to investigations?
They're all handled pretty much the same as this one. We collect all the details, we've taken pictures of the incident, and we interview any witnesses that happen to see it.
Did you fill out an accident report for this?
Yes.
Okay, could you tell me what happened here? It involved two forklifts, as I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, it involved two forklifts. Basically, when I got to the scene, I saw that Joe was on the floor in pain, visibly, and I also saw blood surrounding one of his shoes. And at that time, we called an ambulance.
Okay. Now, these forklifts, do they collide?
No, we've never had an incident like this.
Let me understand your operation here. As I understand it, do the forklifts have specific lanes they stay in?
Yeah, they have separate lanes, and everything is clearly marked for where they're supposed to be.
Do you have mirrors for the corners and things like that?
Yeah, there's mirrors everywhere. There's never been any issue with visibility.
Okay. When you did your investigation of this incident, did you check for witnesses?
Yes, we have two witnesses, Tiffany and Heather.
Okay. And do you know both of these ladies?
Yes, I do.
And if you could you briefly tell me what they said?
They basically had the same story. They were playing chicken on these forklifts and had their foot hanging out the side and were just all around goofing off.
Who had their foot hanging out?
Joe.
Okay. Is this something that's permissible?
No, we go over safety procedures all the time. In fact, the manual for the manufacturer for the forklift talks very specifically about the operation having both feet within the vehicle.
Okay. Did you take these people to the hospital? Were they sent to the hospital?
We sent Joe to the hospital, and we sent Jim as a precaution.
Okay. Did they do a drug test on these individuals?
They did.
Okay. And do you know what those results were?
Yeah, Joe tested positive for marijuana and opiates, and Jim tested positive for opiates, but he has a prescription for that.
Okay. Now, is your standard practice to drug test everyone after an accident, or did you do this for some particular reason?
We were, but OSHA frowns upon that, so we don't do that anymore.
So if someone has an industrial injury at your facility, there's not an automatic drug test. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why did you do a drug test in this case?
Well, that morning during our orientation, they were acting very unusual. Usually they're very quiet and keep to themselves and just do their work, but this morning they were goofing off, they were loud and just all around standing out and not in a positive way. So I was somewhat suspicious of that, and then later on when the incident happened, automatically I thought we needed to do a drug test.
Was there any slurred speech involved?
There was slurred speech, yes.
And who had that?
That was Joe.
Okay, what other type of behavior did you observe?
They had a lot of, like you said, slurred speech, just goofing off. I would say they were just roughhousing, just not caring about anything, just being very, very rough around the edges, I would guess.
Michael, I'm going to ask you this question because you get asked this if we have a hearing on that, is why didn't you do something about it then if you thought these guys were acting weird?
Well, I was standing by them, and they didn't smell of alcohol, so I figured if they're not drunk, then they were probably just fine.
Okay. So you had the drug test, you took them to the hospital. What else do you think are suspicious about these injuries?
Well, it's just not adding up to me. The way you operate these vehicles, you have to have both feet in the vehicle. So for him to have his foot injured, clearly shows that something was going on. Along with my morning experience with Joe, it just not sitting right with me.
Now, I understand that there's some question that these guys were drag racing or screwing around. Did your investigation show any of that?
From what I can tell, yes, it was happening.
Has that happened before? Has that been a problem in the plant previously?
No, this is the first time it's ever happened.
Is that something the company would condone?
Absolutely not.
Ultimately, who would be responsible for disciplining the people if that did occur? Would that be you or someone else?
Yeah, that would be me.
All right. Would this be something that you guys would talk about in safety meetings?
Oh, we talk about it every day.
Okay. Now, as I understand it, you don't do post drug test screening as a matter of course. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But here you were somewhat suspicious.
Yeah.
All right. What's the company's policy if someone tests positive for drugs?
We have a zero tolerance policy, so they get fired
So your
right away.
employee is Jim Bean, is that correct?
Yes.
And what happened to Jim Bean?
Jim got fired.
What happened to Joe Wolverine?
We told the staffing agency that we will no longer need his service.
Okay, so they're both no longer associated with the facility.
Yes.
Now, have you had any personal conflicts with either one of these guys?
No, none at all.
They have to your knowledge, they don't have a beef with you or anything?
No, we all get along and we converse on a regular basis.
Okay. What about the witnesses you mentioned? Do you know if they get along with these guys?
As far as I know, yeah, there's no issues with any of them.
Okay. And I think we touched on this, but I want to make sure there hasn't been any problem with tow motor collisions in the plant before?
Not a single one.
No problem with drag racing or screwing around?
No, we have an outstanding organization and everyone adheres to all the safety precautions. I don't know why an incident like this happened.
Okay. Now, I understand that you have safety meetings, every morning. Do you have notices posted that if someone tests positive for drugs, they could be terminated and/or they could have their workers' compensation claim disallowed?
Look, we have postings on our bulletin board that you can clearly see. You would have to be brain dead to not see it.
Well, that makes sense to me, but sometimes people try to make an issue. But these were posted out at the facility in the break room. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Can you send me a copy of those?
Absolutely.
In fact, it'd be nice if you send me a picture with the notices placed on the bulletin board.
I can do that.
Great. And we have witness statements, I understand, so you're going to send me those also. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Um, is there anything else that you think is relevant? As I understand, there's a question about where his foot was. Is that correct?
I mean, like I said earlier, there's no reason why he should have had a foot injury. If he was operating the forklift properly, his foot should not have gotten injured, no matter what the case was.
Do you have a manual that says how a forklift's supposed to be operated?
We have a safety operations manual. We have the manufacturer's recommended safety precautions also, and the owner manuals to go that came from the manufacturer. So there should not be any reason for an incident like this.
What I want to make sure that's clear, because this will come up, is that this is something that they knew how they were supposed to operate the forklifts, and there's really not an argument here that they didn't know this was a proper way to conduct business. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We have safety trainings on how to use the machinery. We do regular testing to make sure that everyone's adhering to those safety precautions.
So you basically were following your practice. They were aware of this, and despite that, somebody was messing around. Is that the way you see it?
I wholeheartedly believe that, yes.
Okay, let me tell you what's going to happen here. We're going to have a hearing here probably in a couple weeks, and it's going to be important that you come to the hearing, and I'm going to need you to testify. And the most important thing at a hearing is just tell the truth. And you'll be subject to cross-examination, and they may ask you some questions, but just tell the truth. That's what we need to do. We're going to have some witness statements there, and one of my partners, Rob King, is going to actually give a call to those witnesses and talk to them in a little more detail, so we have a little more information. Do you have any questions I can answer for you?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, I really appreciate your help. I'll let you know when the hearing is scheduled, and I think we have a lot of things to say because this just doesn't smell right. I agree.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for your help, Michael.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
Hello, Heather?
Yeah.
This is Rob King from the firm of Bugby and Conkle. I was calling to do an interview with you in connection with this workers' compensation claim and the accident that happened at Scarlet and Gray Warehouse.
Okay.
So I understand you saw Joe and Jim driving their forklifts in a reckless manner right before the crash. Is that true?
Well, they were racing each other. They were trying to hurry up, and unload the trucks. I guess if you consider that reckless.
Well, can you tell me exactly what you saw?
Yeah, like I said, they were racing. They were kicking at each other. Joe was kind of kicking at Jim. They were yelling at each other, laughing, just goofing around.
Where in the plant did this happen?
The warehouse.
Okay, was the warehouse well lit that day?
As well lit as any warehouse.
Do you know either or both of the drivers that were involved in this accident?
Yeah, I know him. Well, I used to date Joe. I just met Jim a couple weeks ago because I just started there.
So you had a personal relationship with Joe?
Yeah.
When was that?
Oh, I don't know. We dated for maybe a year, and we just broke up a couple weeks ago.
So basically you were together for over a year up until a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Was it a good breakup, bad breakup? Was it mutual?
He's not real happy with me, honestly, but I think we're still kind of friends. We hang out at lunch.
So you consider yourself still a friend with him?
Yeah.
Now, did you hear either of the drivers say anything either before or after the accident happened?
Before, I don't know, they were laughing and goofing around. I think Joe was kind of trying to egg Jim on a little bit, maybe. He was teasing him like, yeah, I can unload the truck faster.
Okay. Did it appear to you that either driver had been drinking or might have been under the influence of anything, drugs, alcohol?
I don't really know how to answer that. I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Well, you're not going to get anybody in trouble. We're just trying to get to the truth here. Did it appear like, one of them might have been drinking or slurring their speech or acting funny or erratic?
Well, you know what? We can't get in trouble. I mean, Joe and I have our medical marijuana cards, so, we smoke at lunch. It's fine. So, yeah, we smoked today, but we don't smoke on the job.
So it was just at lunch.
Right.
So how long was lunch before the accident?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. We'd probably been back a half hour, maybe.
Okay. You have any idea how much you smoked?
We smoked a blunt.
Just one?
Yeah, I think it was just one.
Was that one apiece or one between the two of you?
I don't know. We shared it today.
Okay. Now, were either of these drivers, when you saw, driving recklessly or erratically?
Well, like I said, they mess around and they race all the time. They're pretty good at it, so I don't think it's reckless.
So on this day, it looked like they were racing each other?
Yeah. Joe was kind of kicking at Jim, teasing him like, you're not driving fast enough and that kind of thing.
So it appeared to you that Joe was being the aggressor that day?
Aggressor?
The instigator?
I don't know. They do it all the time. I don't know if I'd call him an instigator.
Okay. Now, have you seen either of these two guys driving or smoking marijuana before, other than today at lunch?
I've not really seen Jim smoke. I know Jim does a few things. I hung out with him Saturday, and I think he takes some pills.
Got an idea what kind of pills?
Yeah, it was a Percocet.
Okay. Is that because he was having some type of back problem or something?
Honestly, I don't know, but I think he's got a script for it, so it's fine.
All right. Now, do you know whether these two guys have ever gotten in a fight over a girlfriend or anything in the past?
In the past, that I don't know. I think maybe Joe found out I hung out with Jim Saturday. Maybe he's a little mad. Maybe he's trying to get him in trouble.
So you were spending some time with Jim Beam for a while?
Yeah, a little bit.
Joe found out?
I think he was a little mad.
Well, sort of understandable, huh?
I suppose. Maybe. I don't know. Not a big deal.
Now, the day this accident happened, did anybody else witness it that you know of?
I don't know. I went right back to work. You could hear them. But they get kind of annoying. You get tired of watching them after a while.
But have you talked to anyone else that actually witnessed the accident that day?
I talked to Tiff about it. I think she saw it. I'm not sure.
All right. Did she tell you anything about the accident?
Oh, she's always sticking up for Jim, so she doesn't want Jim to get in trouble. She's trying to make Joe out to be the bad guy.
She got a relationship with Jim?
Yeah.
So she doesn't know about you and Jim, huh?
No, I don't think so.
Well, probably want to keep it that way, huh?
We're going to keep it that way.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Now, have you talked to either Joe or Jim since the accident?
Yeah, Joe called me from the emergency room. He was kind of crying. I think he's hurt. He's pretty hurt. His foot hurts pretty bad.
Did he say anything about the accident itself, how it happened, or what he was doing?
He kind of didn't want me to tell his boss anything. He's goofing around, but you're not his boss.
Okay. Now, did you know whether these two guys were getting along before this happened?
Yeah, I think so. They're buddies.
All right. Have you ever seen these two doing this type of thing before, or have you seen any other employees driving, drag racing, or doing any type of horseplay type activities in the plant before?
Oh, yeah, all the time. They're guys. They mess around. It was Thirsty Thursday, so good time to race. They do it all the time. They pull pranks on each other, stuff like that.
Do the supervisors know about this type of stuff going on?
Well, they participate, or at least one does. He participates. The other guys, they never yell at him, so...
Do you know the name of the supervisor that actually participates?
Mike D. Supervisor.
Oh, all right. So they know this type of stuff's going on, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Now, did it appear to you that either driver was trying to avoid hitting a person in the walkway or anything that might have been in the walkway that day?
I don't think so. Because I wasn't over there. I was working.
So you didn't see anything in that walkway?
No. And if something was in the walkway, they're pretty good at this, so they would have swerved to miss it.
And you were nowhere near it at the time, it sounds like?
Nope, I was working.
All right. Do you know if there were any obstructions in the path that would have made either of them swerve?
Like I said, if there were, they're good at it. They would have missed it.
Now, is there anything else you saw or heard that day that you think would be important that I haven't asked you about?
That day, I don't know. I don't think so. Well, not really that day, but the other day, I heard the plant manager, Vinny. He was going off. He just found out that Joe was the one that called OSHA, so he's pissed, and he's going to be even more mad now that Joe's in this accident.
And you heard Vinny say all that?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember when that was?
No, I don't really remember. A couple days ago, maybe.
But it seemed like he was pretty upset about it, huh?
Oh, he was mad. Yeah. And I was there when Joe called, and Joe kind of ratted the company out pretty bad.
Do you remember what he told OSHA?
I don't know. He was kind of trying to implicate that the forklifts weren't working right, but they race around on them. So I don't understand why he was trying to say the forklifts weren't working right, and just that nobody cares about safety there, but he's always goofing around, so I don't really know why he called.
All right. Is there anything else you think I should know about or would be important about this accident?
Nope. I think that's it.
All right. Well, I thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Hello, Tiffany?
Yes.
This is Rob King from the law firm of Bugbee and Conkle. I was calling you to discuss what you saw at the Scarlet and Gray warehouse regarding these workers' compensation claims, okay?
Okay.
So I understand you saw Joe and Jim driving their forklifts in a reckless manner moments before this crash. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Can you tell me exactly what you saw?
Well, I just saw Jim and Joe racing around on their tow motors.
Did you see anything else?
Just the aftermath.
Okay, where in the plant did it happen?
This happened in the warehouse.
All right. Was that area well lighted?
Yes, I believe so.
Do you know either or both of the tow motor drivers that were involved in this accident?
Well, I know them both.
Do you have a personal relationship with either of these guys?
Jim's my boyfriend. I've known him for a couple of years. I don't know Joe well because he's a temp.
So you say you've known Joe for a couple of years?
Mm-hmm. Oh, not Joe. I've known Jim for a couple of years.
All right. So you said you're boyfriend and girlfriend then?
Yes.
Did you hear either of these guys say anything either before or after the accident?
I heard laughing and hollering and Jim telling Joe to knock it off.
So you're sure that's what you heard?
Yeah.
Did it appear to you that either of the tow motor drivers was under the influence of either drugs or alcohol?
Well, Jim isn't the type to be under the influence at work. I do know that Joe was talking funny.
Well, how do you mean talking funny?
He was just kind of slurring his words and not really making sense.
Okay. Did you smell alcohol or anything on either of them?
No.
So just really the way he was talking, the way he was acting.
Right.
So, in your opinion, were either of the tow motor drivers driving their tow motors recklessly or erratically?
Joe was driving his motor really fast and he was swerving.
All right. Did either of these guys appear to actually be racing their tow motors against the other one?
It looked like they were both racing, but I think Joe was definitely egging Jim on.
All right. In your opinion, did it appear that Joe Wolverine was the instigator behind all this messing around?
Yeah, Joe was definitely the aggressor.
All right. Have you ever seen either of these two guys smoking marijuana or doing any type of drugs?
No.
Do you know whether these two have ever been involved in a fight over a girlfriend in the past?
I don't believe so. No.
Do you know who else would have witnessed this accident?
The warehouse was full of employees at the time, so I don't know who exactly saw what.
But there were other witnesses, you think.
Yeah.
Have you talked to anyone else about this accident?
No.
So you haven't heard from anybody else what they saw or what they heard?
No.
Have you talked to either of the tow motor drivers since the accident?
Well, I've talked to Jim about it, obviously. He's pretty upset with Joe for putting him in this position because Joe was really egging him on.
What all did he tell you then?
He just said that Joe was just kind of messing with him and really instigating and trying to get him to race with him.
Did he describe either his injuries or the other driver's injuries at all?
No, he was more shaken up than anything. Jim was, and he didn't really say anything about Joe's injury.
Do you know if either of these guys were having trouble with each other before this accident?
Not that I know of.
Have you ever seen these two employees doing, or any employees for that matter, doing this type of thing in the warehouse before?
There's a lot of horseplay at the warehouse, and drag racing occurs pretty regularly.
So this was not an uncommon thing for you to see.
No.
Have you seen any other type of, other than drag racing, any other type of erratic behavior on the plant floor? People doing things, horseplay, that type of thing?
Yeah, there's always kinds of goofing off going on, so.
To your knowledge, do the supervisors know about this type of behavior, or these things are going on?
Well, one of the supervisors participates, and the other supervisor seems to kind of turn a blind eye.
So they didn't even try to stop this activity, and it sounds like they actually condone it.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't try to stop it.
Going back to the accident itself, did it appear to you that either driver was trying to avoid hitting another employee or something in the walkway?
Jim was trying to avoid someone. Jim swerved.
Did you happen to see who it was he swerved to miss?
Yeah, it was Heather Harbaugh.
Were there any other obstructions in their way or in the path of the tow motors?
Not that I saw.
Is there anything else you saw or heard that day that I haven't asked you about that you think would be important?
Well, I don't think so.
All right. Well, I appreciate your cooperation and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thank you.